So for today's video, we are going to look deeper into integers. So integers are whole numbers, and the first thing we're going to look at is negative numbers. So in this video, I'm going to show negative numbers as the short form, which is minus sign, and then VE, so this means negative. So when we use negative, a lot of times when you want to refer to something, we say that if one side is positive, for example, if you go up, it's positive. You go up 1 meter, 2 meters, we say it's positive 1 and 2. So what if you want to go lower than 0? So this would usually be the benchmarking point, which is 0. If you go lower than 0, then you have to start using negative numbers. So you start with the smallest number, which is nearest to 0, -1, and then you slowly go further down and further down. It's -1, -2, -3. So 0, as you can note here, is not a negative number, nor is it a positive number. 0 is just 0. So let's have a real life example. So a lot of times when we say we earn money, so if you earn money, usually we say that there's a positive money coming in, and if you lose money, a lot of times you say there's a negative money going out. So you have less than 0 money when you lose money. So this is like an example of how you use positive and negative. And one way that we can actually represent this positive and negative numbers is through what we call the number line. So this will give you a better idea of how the numbers positive or negative stand, or which one is bigger, which one is smaller. So how you draw a number line is you draw a line with arrows on both sides, and in the center you have the neutral, which is 0. So anything that's bigger than 0, we put it on the right side. So you start with 1, go to 2, go to 3, and as you go more and more to the right, the number gets bigger. And on the left side, you start with -1, go further left, -2, and then -3. So if you go and further left, the absolute number, that means this number here without the sign, gets bigger and bigger. But you have to take note, the value is actually smaller and smaller, because the idea here is that the numbers on the right are always bigger than the numbers on the left. So -1 is bigger than -3, even though 3 is a bigger number than 1, but because of the negative sign, -1 is actually bigger than -3. And how we denote this in mathematical terms is using this sign, bigger than. So -1 is bigger than -3. And let's have another example. So what is the relation of -2 and 2? So -2 is on the left of 2. So -2 is less than 2. And in mathematical sign, we use this symbol pointing to the left. So an easy way to remember this is the arrow, the smaller side, is the smaller one. So it's smaller than, and on this side, the bigger end, so it's bigger than. So -2 is smaller than 2. And we call these signs, this one and this sign, we call them inequalities. And in the future, you will see signs like this as well. This means bigger than or equals to. And this sign means smaller than or equals to. So let's look at how we can use the number line to actually help you with the addition, subtraction, the division, and the multiplication of positive and negative numbers. So let's first look at addition. So for example, we have a sum asking us to do, you add -25 and 9. So you are supposed to add a negative number to a positive number. So as mentioned just now, if you see a negative number, you should actually move to the left side of 0. So if we start with negative 25, so from 0 we need to move back 25 spaces. So here you have negative 1, negative 2, all the way to negative 25. So you move left 25 spaces, and then you see you have to plus 9. So you have to move to the right 9 spaces. So if you do the math, and you draw out the system, you can see that actually 9 spaces means one space is negative 24, negative 23, all the way to 16. So the answer is actually 16, and you can see from the number line how you actually derive the answer. So let's look at subtraction now. So for subtraction, it's a little bit more tricky. So if you subtract a positive number, you actually move leftwards on the number line. If you subtract a negative number, instead of moving left, you actually move right on the number line this time around. So let's do an example. Say we have 5 subtract negative 8. Okay, so if you go from 5 onwards, I'll start with 5. So 5, you actually is a positive number, so you go to the right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's 5. And you subtract negative 8. So when you subtract a negative, you go to the right further. So oops, we're not going to the left, so we need to go to the right another 8 steps. So if you draw it out, you actually find the final answer is actually 13. So even though it's a subtraction, because it's two minus signs here, it becomes a bigger number instead of a smaller number. So next we look at multiplication. So with multiplication, you look at it by having the first number being done the number of times on the right. So let me use an example to illustrate, maybe simpler. So let's take minus 3 multiplied by 4. So what this means is if you take minus 3 is moving to the left by 3 spots. So this is minus 3, and multiply by 4 means you do it 4 times. So you go minus 3 4 times, minus 3, minus 3, minus 3, minus 3, which gives you minus 12. So this is how you do multiplication. So likewise, if you have a positive number like 5 multiplied by a negative number of minus 2, you can see it as going 2 times, going minus 2 in the left direction, do it 5 times. So you can draw 5 of those, and you get something like minus 10 at the end. So what if you have a negative number, multiplied by a negative number? So what happens here is you have to remember, if you have a negative number multiplied by a negative number, you get a positive number. So if you have a negative number multiplied by a positive number, or positive number minus multiplied by a negative number, you get a negative number. And positive, as you know, is the usual way to do it, you get a positive number. So the only exception here that you really have to take note is this one, where a negative number multiplied by a negative number, you get a positive. But this is a rule, and you have to remember this and take note. So in this case, you have minus 3 times minus 4. You can change it to positive, and you just do a normal multiplication. 3 times 4, you get 12. So this is multiplication. So this set of rules here applies to division as well. So if you take a negative number, divide by a negative number, you also get a positive number. If you do a negative, divide by a positive, or positive, divide by a negative, you get a negative. And if you have a positive, divide by a positive, get positive. Exactly the same way as the multiplication. But the difference, one key difference to note about division is you cannot divide by 0. So any number 5, 10, -5, you cannot divide by 0. This is what we call a non-defined number or invalid number. So if you see this in the question, you know that you have to tell them that it's an invalid number, or you may have done something wrong in the steps. So what about multiplication? You can multiply by 0. So anything multiplied by 0, be it a 5, be it a -5, your answer will be 0. So as long as you see a 0 in the multiplication, you just have to give the answer as 0. So let's end the chapter by doing an example of a sum that has out of a question that has both positive and negative numbers, and also multiplication or division with addition. So let's have this example: 14 minus 3 multiplied by -8 and -5. So the number one rule you have to take note: always have to do your multiplication or division first. So in this case, you cannot take 14 minus 3 multiplied by -8 minus 5. Doesn't work that way. So you have to do the multiplication first. So in this case, you have -3 times -8. And we know from just now that two negatives give you a positive, and this gives you an answer of 24. So here you can see it becomes 14 plus 24 minus 5. So from here you can then do the normal, either by the number line or by your own calculation. You get the answer: 14 plus 24 equals to 38, minus 5 equals to 33. So that is how you do a sum. If it is a divide, it's the same thing. You have to do the division first before you can tackle the positive and the negative, and that you can do left to right, or you can do in any order you want.